And here we are. We made it.
Hello.
I had to move approximately 397 windows to get to the point where we could see us seeing you.
Yay.
Oh, and we have a live studio audience.
Hey.
Let's see, if I say something funny, will I get a laugh track?
Oh, I got this. Maybe a clap even.
Here it comes, get ready. That was my funny thing. Excellent. Okay, we're going to start out by thanking our recent subs on the YouTubes. And we get to listen to my incredible pronunciation, very culturally sensitive pronunciations of everyone's names. So, we're starting with Addie, Arianato, Kaylee, Patricia Bolson, Abdul Aziz, Claudio Morales, MJ Scale.
Not a clue. But it's,
is that Korean?
It's Korean.
Okay. Someone Korean. Polish, MH. Polish? I guess that's Paul, but there is. Well, actually, so my wife Heather has heatherishthings.com, so maybe this is along the same lines. Polish. Corlin Kruger, Art Volt, Nick Darling, Rolantastic, Yiggle Revolvers, Nelson V, Elson Esland, Toybox Channel. That sounds fun. Carla Domi, Politically Insane Wraith.
Well, that's
politely. Oh, okay. That's totally different. Sorry, I didn't mean to get political on these highly politically charged days. Nyan Man, Ansilt Tuxteno.
Did you mention Hassan A. Tug? Or she skipped?
Oh, sorry, Hassan. I didn't mean to skip you. Nacha, Lisa Toscano. Gavar? Oh, okay.
Well, it should be Javar, shouldn't it?
Whoever, Eglin, Joshua Prescott. And this is an advertisement for Magic the Gathering Arena. They did not subscribe to me, sadly. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining along. Today, we've got all sorts of wacky things we're going to be working on. Mostly talking about design, world building, that kind of stuff. And I'm going to be trying to do some quick visualization of stuff also. So, as an introduction, let's talk about what we're doing here in the broadest terms.
Yeah, do you have a picture? Because when you show me a picture and say, this is this, and then I need to come up with a backstory, a history, a way they move, a religion, a worldview, and that tells you how they will approach a situation.
That's right.
And I try to make things that are not particularly present on today's earth. And so you've got that, and I thought of how the pangolin walks. I love pangolins a lot. And so although they're not identical, I thought they would be close enough that that's how I envisioned them and that's how I described them. That's not how they moved, and you have to change that.
No, it's delightful. They should definitely move like penguins. So this is the Rumshae, or Rumshae, if they're plural.
Plural, Rumshae.
And they are eusocial creatures that live mostly underground.
Yes.
They are, let's see, so there's sexual dimorphism, where the male and female are different, but these are...
But they also have work dimorphism.
Yes. Is there a more scientific word for that?
Caste.
Caste
you've got
dimorphic.
a worker caste, an army caste. In this case, they have an outside caste, which has vaguely humanoid dimensions and shape.
Well, they try to model themselves that they're the interface between the rest of the world and
Right. And so they're about human sized.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have the warrior caste, and they're
It's these guys.
a lot larger and a lot stronger. And humans almost never see them. The warrior caste, because they do not commit wars of aggression, and because they do not look at the future and therefore prepare for the future, they do not use the warriors a whole lot.
Oh,
When
hold on.
Oh.
We'll get back to this. Damon Rath subscribed for 6 months in a row. Thank you. Oh, speaking of Damon Rath, he sent a delightful gift.
Oh!
This is from the nursery he works at, Papio Valley. Is it Papio or Papio? Or Pie Ooh.
Oh, nurseries are my favorite place in the world.
Yeah, so you should go visit him. So this is our first sponsorship. We're officially being sponsored by PVN Nursery. Call now to get 100% off any future orders. Tell them Damon Rath sent you. Use order code Josh Foreman. Says everything at the nursery is free because we're officially sponsored. I pronounced it right the first time? Yeah.
Where is Papio Valley?
Idaho? No, Ohio. One of the flat states. What's the flat state you live in?
Wyoming?
Close. Flatter.
Arizona?
Iowa?
No, wait. That's not flat.
Oh, you mean further
Florida's
east?
flat.
Yeah.
Nebraska's flat. Florida's
Nebraska.
Florida's very flat. If it's Florida, I'm happy.
Exceptions apply. Just call them and tell them you need to talk to Damon about your 100% off coupon.
I'm sure they'll really appreciate it.
No, you know what? I honestly do appreciate this because did I mention this on a stream that I smashed 2 of my Starbucks cups? So these are awesome. They're like a cup inside a cup, so
Right.
they don't
They have
get
an
all
insulated space.
yeah, so they don't get all drippy
Yeah, stop
on you.
advertising Starbucks. They're advertising you.
Right. So now I can advertise PVN.
Don't even mention Starbucks.
They're like
destroying your
They're
brand.
like a clear thermos.
Nebraska is so you drive out to Nebraska, get your 100% off of all your nursery needs.
Oh, I'll have to do that.
Also welcome Alita and Van Morta. Thanks for stopping by. And okay.
And then more to, yes, we are rejoicing because we have arrived.
Okay, I did mention that I left. So I've left a cup and I've smashed 2 cups somehow. I don't know how this happens. This doesn't happen with other things that I have or own, but cups do not last long with me. So anyway, thank you sincerely, Damon. Thank you for the subs. Thank you for the support, the Patreon support. Obviously, thanks for your visit, your kind words. No thank you for the peanut brittle. I did inadvertently eat half of it already.
Wait, what?
And
where is it?
it's up by the M&Ms.
Oh.
You want to have some?
Well, you don't have to worry about the temptation of the rest of it now.
There you go. Okay, so Shane will take care of that for me. Okay, so that's right. The risk of spilling on my computer was greater than 100% because I had an uncovered beverage thing. So yes, this is awesome. I can spill to my heart's content and only dribble on my computer. How is it? It's pretty good, huh?
It's delicious.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to talking about...
Okay, so we've got the warrior. They can
Yes.
fight whatever attacks them. The warriors come out and they make sure the attackers stop.
Mhm.
They are very formidable. And then we have...
And these guys are the size of... What would you put them at? The size of a horse?
Why
a
not?
rhino?
Sure. Anyway, a lot larger
They can get pretty
than
big.
the outside
Yeah.
form. And then there's another form with the worker caste.
Yes.
And I'm going to make either I change my description or you change your drawing.
I'll change my
I
drawing.
had a more shovel-like hands because they do the digging.
Yeah, we don't... I don't know how do they use tools in the same way that, gnomes and dwarves when they're digging? They use pickaxes and spades and shovels and
And
stuff. Or
I
are
thought
they
it'd
going
be-
all
I thought
natural?
it'd be cooler if they actually did it with their
Scoopy hands.
dimorphic body.
Yeah, I agree. That's cool. And then not shown, we also, I have older concept for these guys. Now, you know, this is concept number 2, and there'll be a concept number 3 and 4 as we progress and come up with better ideas. This was the very first original, you know, just...
Right. I guess I was going off of this a little more than the second drawing.
Yeah, it could be. So we've got nurses as well.
And I was thinking something like naked mole rats.
Right.
There's very few females, and only a very few of the females are the ones that breed and produce the babies.
And we have this delightful...
Look at that!
penguin.
I love it.
So that's my primary
Never saw that
inspiration.
before.
Yeah, for the nurses of the tribe.
But yeah, now imagine those claws fused together, and you would have your
Scoopy shovels.
scoop shovel. Yeah.
And then I also added recently a 5th class, which
Yes.
is the artificers. They need
Right.
fine tool using carvers and sculptors and
Okay.
yeah. So so in the story, the story that these guys are in so far, well, they're in several of the novels, but the first main one is the Scarred King. And so Beaumark comes across their central place that is unique in
Built
that.
with walls like that.
Okay, so yes, we're talking about very finely fitted stones, and the thing that's unique about it is they don't build up. They're diggers. They build down.
Yeah.
So
they have a spire on top to sort of indicate if they have to go above ground where it is.
right. So it's a big city of small, squat structures mostly, and the true grandeur is underground.
Well, there's some above, like for the blacksmiths. Those would be
Right.
larger ones.
They have an
Well-
interface for surface dwellers and non-Rumshae.
Right. And like restaurants that are for both species would be tall enough to go into.
Yes. By squat, I mean not, you know, when you think of a medieval city, you think of, you know, 2 or 3 story tall
Got it.
structures or towers and
Got it.
minarets, that
Got it.
sort of thing, you know. And so this is kind of not that. I started an illustration, here we go. I started an illustration of what I was thinking.
The cafe.
Yeah,
Oh,
for...
you might need to put it closer. It's really hard to see. Yeah.
And just so I've got ideas, and I'm not the best at especially architectural drawings, and so I wanted to take it into ZBrush and do some more ideation there, and also, you know, it led me to looking through a lot of reference for stuff. I was looking specifically for fitted stones in interesting ways. But another thing that's very unique about their culture, you kind of mentioned this quickly, is they don't perceive the future, which makes architectural design
Right.
particularly challenging.
Yes, it would be. You try to it's. I heard about a sandbox story where you take a character, just put them in a little story to see how they act. But I sort of do that with entire novels. And so, you know, we're supposed to not worry about the future. We're supposed to live in the present. And I thought, well, let's embody that in this species that refuses to look forward to the future. Because it's based on this religious concept of the cosmic jester.
Mm-hmm.
Their god is a jokester. And they never know when their god is going to play a trick on them. And if they say, well, this is what's going to happen in the future, then the cosmic jester will probably make sure that never happens.
Okay.
They think their life is a joke, but to them, that's okay.
Yeah, it's a fun joke.
Yeah.
Even when terrible
yeah.
things happen,
It's always interesting if it's nothing else. And so, yeah, they get together. Obviously, they build things together, but they don't do it by saying, well, tomorrow we're going to do such and such. They just say, I'm thinking of a wonderful building. And they talk about it, and as the days go by, they show up. Today I feel like I will walk this way. And they get to the place, and then they start working together. You want Spanish architecture.
I can't remember. Gaudi. There it is. I knew it would be one of the first ones.
Oh, yes.
So, all of what you're talking about makes me think of Gaudi because he has this sense of whimsy and kind of a hodgepodge look that I think comes about from just kind of fun.
Right. Although, if you think about it, that's really hard to do. That
it is
takes
hard to do.
Ton more planning than a box.
Yes. Ironically, it gives the feeling of improvisation because it seems to change its style as it goes. I personally hate 90% of his stuff. I like this where it feels consistent throughout the whole thing, but
where's one you don't like?
I don't like this much.
I love that. But you're saying you don't
cool.
like it because it doesn't feel organic, because there's such a change in style once you go above a certain floor.
There's something that just makes me cringe about. I actually wrote about this on my blog when I was talking about the music museum here in Seattle that's done by that famous architect that's all just kind of melty, warped, colorful.
The music experience.
Yeah,
Paul
the
Allen.
EMP.
Paul Allen designed.
Paid for by Paul Allen.
Paul Allen did not design it.
I know he didn't design, but he paid for
Yes.
it. And the architect, he told the architect he wanted something that would remind of that singer that smashed his guitar on stage.
Of Jimi
And so
Hendrix.
that's supposed to be the smashed guitar.
Okay. Yeah, that's a terrible inspiration for a building. Or it's a terrible implementation to me.
Can you look up Magic Gardens in Philadelphia? I was there a couple weeks ago.
That's not how you spell architecture, is it?
Yeah, it is.
It is?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find this.
Just like that. You
Okay.
actually spelled a word correctly.
Oh, it's amazing. Frank Gehry is the guy
There
who
we are.
designed it. Yeah.
Yes. I hate his stuff in general. On the Yale campus, he built a chapel out of plywood and put the entry, it was the law school that he put the entry in the back. To me it was like he was mocking the chapel.
It's a
And he
deliberate
was mocking the law
subversion.
school.
It's a deliberate subversion of expectations, and how you interpret that has a lot to do with a spirit of either trust or willingness to kind of just go where they're taking you, or you'll have a feeling of suspicion and you're upset because your assumption about the creator's attitude will determine how you interpret that, right?
Well, maybe. I think he was smirking at those two things in the Yale campus. Now, I also saw the home that he built for his sister.
Mhm.
And it's exposed lath, it was chain link, it was rusted this and rusted that. I mean, it looked like an abandoned home that had been broken into and partly burnt down. And she was saying, "Oh, I love my house. I love what my brother did for me." And I kept looking at it thinking, I don't get it.
So what made me get Frank Gehry's work was a band that I discovered a couple years ago, and what became apparent to me, there's a lot of aesthetic similarities between this building and this band's music, which I will not play. There is again, purposefully subverting your it looks like it's going in one direction, it will absolutely suddenly shift to another direction, another tempo, another style. And what I discovered through the music was that this is playful. It's not mean. And so that's what made me think, or it at least opened my mind to the possibility that this is meant playfully and not smirkingly and meanly, right?
I don't know. There's the Portland building with the Portlandia lady with her trident.
Okay.
And I don't know. It looks like a clown sitting between sober people in its surrounding. And unfortunately, he spent so much time thinking about how things work on the outside that I don't know who did the inside.
Is this the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Where we want the building.
I wonder if they named the statue after the TV show Portlandia.
No. There you go. There you go. And unfortunately for the people working inside, it's a terrible building. Everything is inconvenient, awkward, too hot, too cold, too far apart, too close together.
That's my building too. But
Yeah.
It's hard to heat buildings, especially if you have open floor plans. Well, anyway, yes. Well, you said to go to
Magic
one of his
Gardens
other
in
Magic
Philadelphia.
Gardens. Okay.
Now, there was a thing that was built day by day by a guy being very playful. He had bought his art building.
Oh, yes, the garbage pile. Yeah.
Right, yes. And some of it is just wonderful. I love the okay, we don't want that part. I love the mirrors on the wall. But when you just step back and look at it as a whole, it's a massive trash heap. And so when he had asked these businessmen if he could beautify this vacant lot, and they came and they saw that, they thought he was going to put in a tree and a couple shrubs, maybe a bench. And there was that with concrete and bicycle wheels and bottles that, all the street people brought him and he would pay them for the bottles. Tile, all sorts of things, yeah.
So when it comes to designing our fictional race, it would be great if they're not building what humans would build because they have specific outlooks on life. Their experience of time is different than ours. So the question is, what would end up the result of that, architecturally speaking? How could they build a temple?
Well, somebody would
tavern,
put a rock here, and then another person would put a rock there.
Yeah,
and
that's something I like about this kind of fitted thing. Is it does? I mean, improvisation is necessary for this because someone built put this rock here, and someone had to carve that niche into that side in order to fit this other one, or vice versa. You can't be out on the field and cut all your rocks in these shapes and then put them together as a jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
Well, I mean, conceivably you could. Probably would be super obnoxious and take forever. Or it's aliens. That's.
But yeah, they wake up in the morning and say, "I feel like going to the building site."
Mm-hmm.
They don't say the day before, "I'll show up."
Yeah.
But somehow they deliver the goods for trade.
So being eusocial, they're going to be very heavily driven by instinct.
Right.
And
by what the people around them are doing. Mm-hmm. They will take part in it. Oh, this is going on. I will go and be not I will go, but I am going to be a part of it.
So there's this concept called the tipping point that has to do with social dynamics and at what point in group psychology enough people doing a thing will cause a tip so that the vast majority of people do that thing, like this thing, adopt this style, etc., etc. And in humans, that threshold exists somewhere. Depending on how radical it is. If it's they did this test where they would have one person on the street in New York, and he was looking up into a tree, and they would just count how many people stop and look up into that tree. Then they had two people standing there looking up into the tree, and you can kind of get a mathematical model for,
I think it was 6%, wasn't it?
I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was something, and that was somewhere. Now, when it comes to someone running in panic, how many people running in panic do you need to get a whole group of people to all start running in panic? And that's a higher number because it's a more exceptional,
response.
It's a more exceptional thing to be doing, and breaks up the flow of your day, et cetera, et cetera. So we can imagine in this culture that tipping point is much lower for them. The threshold is much lower, so that if one person starts doing something, if one Rumshae says, "I'm going to start building this pillar here," you'll have 12 other Rumshae around.
Except
like,
he says,
"That's a
I
funny
am
thing
building
to do."
this pillar
That's
here.
right. I am, not I will.
It's very tricky.
Yeah.
And that short story that I wrote for the NIWA, N-I-W-A anthology Artifact, it involves a Rumshae who can't do the religious duty of laughing at everything.
Right.
Because he's depressed. And he keeps thinking about the future, and he knows he shouldn't. He can't stop doing this sin of thinking about the future. And so he leaves so that he could go be a sinner out in the woods and not be bothering his
jovial family.
His jovial family, yes. And that's how he ends up at the City of Magicians.
Yeah. So when I was digging through my reference and compiling this little sub catalog here, the things that kind of popped out at me was this idea of little heads of things poking out. To me, because I'm coming from a totally different culture, these things are just funny. They're cute and they're funny. Now, to an actual person back in the day when they were making this, I'm sure that
they could tell you
a lot of different
that's
significance. Yeah.
Very many syllables God, and that's another whole lot of syllables God.
Yeah.
And that's many more syllables God.
And they're probably in this particular configuration because of the power dynamics between them and blah, 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 right? All this kind of stuff. I can just ignore that and say, how funny would it be that Rumshae come along, they see a building and they're like, wouldn't it be funny if a dog face was poking out of this wall? Or if, the water, if I put a rain spout so that the water went this way and dumped onto the doorstep,
Right,
something along those lines.
That would make it a joke, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what led me to, thinking about what's his face's work. Gaudi.
Gary's work.
No, Gaudi.
Oh, Gaudi, okay.
That led me to Gary, but before that was Gaudi. Oh, here we go. Because there's a sense of whimsy, especially this kind of awful stuff.
I love that.
It's terrible. If the sculpting was good, it'd be okay. It's just so bad.
Well, he's not looking for realism.
I know. Clearly. The point is.
Yes, the point.
I don't want to constrain all the design that takes place in Talifar to my particular, palette of tastes,
okay.
Right? So I would like to pursue this, and ideally, at some point, I'm collaborating with someone who's just the biggest fan of Gaudi and Gary, and wants to take this initial seed of an idea of improvisational...
And make a theme park
Sure.
with buildings like that.
Sure. Yeah, so that's... And put funny little Dr. Seuss dollops on top of the buildings.
Oh, I'll make that larger.
I can't.
Oh. Well, all right. I'll have to peer at it.
Yeah. It'd be so cool if there was a button in Google that was look for this picture but bigger. So you can set your tools to only look for large images, but then there's no guarantee that someone took a high resolution picture of that same thing again, sadly. Anyway, yeah. So so the idea of ad hoc artistic flourishes on buildings, practical jokes on buildings, that sort of thing is great. They would not have the same kind of.
But you're right. They would love Gary's work.
Right. They would. I think they would not have the same issues we do. They don't have the concept of property rights, for example. So
because they're communal and everything.
right. So you have a blacksmith. In a medieval town of humans, you would have a blacksmith, and say the tanner next door thinks it would be hilarious to reroute his gutter so that water spills on his hot iron stuff.
Okay.
And that would be a crime, and the tanner would be prosecuted and flogged in the city streets. Here, if such a thing happened, the blacksmith would laugh at how funny it is, and then because he's still driven by instinct to create blacksmith stuff, he would find a way to reroute it, maybe reroute it back to
the anvil over.
And he would lose a couple days of work, and that would just be a funny joke. So they're not worried about efficiency. They're not worried about property rights. They're not worried about. Now here's a question, for that springs to mind. Practical jokes. You just look on YouTube at the practical joke channels.
They're jokes, so they're just stupid.
Yeah, they're almost all terrible.
Touching a woman.
Yeah. Jokes that either directly harm or have the potential to harm physically or emotionally another person. How would that play out in this society?
Well, we have the experience where Beaumark rents an animal to ride, a goatish, and it was supposed to belong to a mining group. And so when the mining group would come back and go, say, return to the central place for vacation or whatever, one of them was going to not have the goatish when they show up.
Mm-hmm.
And they would consider that hilarious, and he would think it was hilarious. Well, look at that. I thought I had a goatish. I do not have a goatish, and I do not get to go on vacation. I get to go do something else.
Right.
Yay, what am I, what am I, oh, look at that. I'll go pick flowers or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they hold things loosely.
So that's inconvenience, change of plans. What about things that could actually physically damage or kill?
Well, that I think they would really hate.
so
everybody hates to be damaged.
Right. What is the impulse that keeps that from happening? Do they just have an instinct that keeps them away from?
Well, I don't want to hurt my brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me neither. So that they would just naturally avoid pranks and jokes that have the potential to hurt someone.
Correct.
Okay. Being eusocial means that they're going to already they prioritize the health and safety of the group over their own individual. They could potentially have a class of jokes that injure themselves, although even then they're removing a valuable source of stability for their so I guess they would avoid injuring. They would avoid pranks that cause deprivation, dangerous amounts of deprivation.
Okay.
So one of the interesting kind of social norms that you had in the book was you go into a restaurant and you have a die, which a 50-50 chance of being black or white. If it's one color, you pay.
When they roll the four-sided die.
Yeah, if it's one color, they pay double for their food. If it's the other color, it's free for them.
Right.
Right. So that is something that in the long term ends up balancing out, probably more or less, and and so I think applying that kind of sensibility to the way they would prank or whatever you would call their form of worship, where they're doing their improv.
Improv, very good. Yes.
In architecture, in economics, and whatever else it may be. Yeah, so back to their architecture. Fitted together stones seems to capture these two elements that we're trying to say. A very cohesive, due to instinct, eusocial culture where everyone does what's best for everyone else. And
they're sort of forced into particular niches of what they do for the group by their body shapes.
Yeah. So you've got that cohesion, but then you also have the improvisation of kind of making things fit. They may not necessarily naturally fit, but they will make things fit. And yeah, so that's what I was going to try to bring about. This one in particular stuck out to me because it felt to me like you kind of see this happen. I don't know where that bug came from.
Where is that?
Not sure. Looks like Morocco. Here's a building that has windows or whatever, and then these little whatever they are.
I would assume they were water spouts. But they seem awfully low down, don't they? Well, they're low down enough so that the water would arc away from the walls.
Maybe. But it looks like a funny nose and ears and eyes on this guy. And it seems like that would be the kind of thing that a Rumshae would find hilarious, to add to a building or subtract from a building to make it end up doing something like that. And so, yeah, just looking for those kind of opportunities. I put this in here because just the idea of you have these stacked up big stone slabs, and because these guys are eusocial and stronger than humans, you have the ability to do things more dramatic than Stonehenge, with big rock slabs. Right. So that's an opportunity I want to make sure I capitalize on. Yeah, so in general, when I'm trying to think through the architecture of, any artifact that a culture leaves behind, try to make it fit aesthetically, thematically, and logistically flow from the way they think and act. I think if we made these guys build Gothic cathedrals, that would not fit any of those categories.
Correct.
Right. So. Yeah, that's...
Question from the audience.
Oh, we have an audience question.
Oh, we haven't paid attention.
Mentioned the females at all. I've heard rumor that the females are in utter seclusion.
Yes.
And the way these things sound, they almost sound like a bee colony kind of thing.
Well, I was thinking naked mole rats.
Somehow their genetics are manipulated so they get the right balance of the different castes.
Yeah.
And that would connect with the bees building hives and building, almost instinctually building what needs to be done to make the community function.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Omegon, thank you for subscribing.
Yeah.
So, okay, yes, so females are hidden away, and we have this this instinct that you can't even talk about the females without raising the hackles of, specifically the warriors. I assume everyone else as well. Let's talk about that a little bit. So we've got, is it less than 50% of the population is female?
I would assume so.
Okay. And
bees.
Yeah, like a lot of insects. In naked mole rats, is it, what is the ratio? Do you know?
I don't know.
Let's find out. curious if mammals can take this eusocialism quite as far. Rats.
Oh, somebody sells them. I would think they would escape out of almost every cage, since they can chew through concrete. Ah, there we go. Somewhere in that article is sex ratio, but it looks like it may take a while to get there. Okay, I guess they're not going to tell us unless we go past the paywall and buy the article.
Yeah.
You're not rooting for the Seahawks.
I wonder if National Geographic has said something about it.
Who are they fighting against?
The Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh, Los Angeles Chargers.
They're better than the Seahawks, but
I hope they win.
Oh, there's one
The
dominant
queen
rat.
is the only naked mole rat female to breed and bear young, but that doesn't say what percentage are female.
$10
But only
an hour.
one of them per colony have the babies. They can survive with no oxygen for up to 18 minutes.
Mhm.
They are just absolutely amazing. They live in 280 members, sleep in piles on each other.
Yeah, so that's another quirk of their culture that would surely manifest in unique ways. So if you're wandering through Central Place, you're never going to see a female and you're never going to see a child, right?
Correct.
They're all in burrows underground. So I'm doing this this kind of fitted together stone block idea. And I'm wondering how far I can push the shapes to fit things together
that looks like one of
three-dimensionally.
those puzzle blocks you would buy in a store.
Which probably would require more forethought than they are capable of giving to it. So when it comes to three-dimensional forms, that might not work so well. One thing, so I had this idea also of, let's see, if they had a stone slab, say, and
You need to go down because we can't see the conversation.
no, this is the bottom of it. Oh, just kidding.
Ah, okay. What determines what form they are born in? Well, you know, I haven't thought about that. In insectile colonies, it's done through hormones produced by the workers or certain herbal what's the word I'm looking for? They turn it into chemicals that they bathe the egg or larvae in, and that changes the development of the creature.
And how is that decision made? You know, is it do they all have a sense of the proportions?
How do bees make that decision? I have no idea.
Yeah, my guess is no one knows for sure. But
they call it instinct. That means we don't know why they do it.
yeah, so there's a veil of ignorance there. What it's like to
You're
be.
saying, you know, you're looking
whatever.
at emergent properties, but what is the impetus for the emergence?
Yeah. I'm trying to do those here. No, that one. No. Sorry, I need to remember to never try to do something that I did, a year ago.
Never done before.
Well, I've done it before. I just one of these magical button combinations will make a Boolean occur, but apparently not with what I'm doing here. Oh, I'll bet it's because they're not polymesh 3D.
Okay, so we have this slab.
Here's a slab. That is a
Okay.
polymesh 3D. Now I will append a, let's see, is this the ring that I made? Probably not. The ring that I made will just not be bad, not bad. But I would like to, basically what I'm hoping to accomplish is that, there we go, is that through messing around with tools that, messing around with visualization tools such as ZBrush, I can stumble upon a fun aesthetic that doesn't exist in the real world, but seems like it would thematically match what the kind of thing we're looking for.
Well, there's so many things that have to be the same. You have to have an opening to get inside.
Yes.
Although I suppose you have to climb a ladder to get inside and then climb down another ladder, and that would be really different. That would require a great deal of physical agility on everybody in the population who's going to use that doorway.
Mm-hmm.
Just like so much of our most architecture precludes people with certain disabilities from using the building.
Yeah. So one of the things I was thinking of that could be interesting is just various grooves and things drilled through at fun angles, either for entrances or water spouts or it seems to me like.
Well, I had a block of wood once and a mechanical drill, where you used to, and I drilled a whole bunch of holes in it on every side, and then I could drop a marble in one of the holes and have no idea which hole it would come out of because of the way the tunnels intersected.
Right. Yeah, that seems like that sort of thing would suit them and their attitude towards life, the kind of randomness.
Yeah, I was 9 years old when I did it. It was fun. My dad let me use his tools.
Nice. See, I'm imagining.
They would think dead ends are funny.
They would?
They would, yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole subgenre of game design. It's kind of predicated on the idea of trolling the player. I made a version of Super Adventure Box that does that, where there's flowers, and every once in a while a flower will randomly blow up if you touch it, kill you. And it's only funny to some
is that
people.
Why people hate you so
That's
much?
one of the
Josh?
reasons that people hate me. One of many reasons. It's within a genre. So if you're in that genre, expect that. It's an optional mode. You don't have to do it. And so that's it reminds me of that. The idea that they would just dig a tunnel that goes, especially the more grand and important looking it seems, and then it just kind of stops, would be kind of funny. Although in a continually growing society, if they're always digging and expanding, I guess there would be at some point at which they would stop doing that. We should probably talk about that. How does that work in nature when a termite mound or a naked mole rat colony, whatever, reaches their critical threshold?
Generally, the queen makes they split.
Right.
And one stays here, and the other goes away and looks for a new place to live.
And so when I was designing the Van Morta says, I find it funny but infuriating at the same time. That getting blown up by random flowers. Yes. The population itself. So when I designed the Sidge, so they break off. Half the colony goes off with a new mother tree.
Right.
Right. Does that happen in nature? I don't think that happens with the bee colony, because at some point, if they just keep growing and growing and growing, they're going to deplete all the resources, et cetera, et cetera. There's some natural balancing that takes place. Their resources go, their population crashes, you get the Malthusian cycle. But is that the mechanism by which a termite mound doesn't grow to be 1 million miles wide and cover the entire planet?
Well, I'm still thinking about how bees swarm.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite baseball game that I ever watched was suddenly in the stands people are screaming and running away, and they find out there's a swarm of bees under one of the benches. And so the idiotic janitors or caretakers, instead of saying, I should call a beekeeper and find out what to do, they brought a hose out.
No.
And hosed the bees, which made the bees disperse throughout the Coliseum and sting everybody. And so now everybody's running around screaming. And finally, one of the audience said, I'm a beekeeper, let me take care of it. And so he wades in and slowly scoops out the queen from under the bench, and suddenly he's got hundreds and then thousands of bees around his hand and his arm, and he walks away and all the bees follow him out of the Coliseum.
It was in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati?
That was it.
70s.
Okay.
So I don't know that
has a
lot of
happier...
the colony doesn't follow.
Yeah. Huh, okay. Something to research. But, so in the case of Rumshae in our world, how do we want to answer that question? Do they have a moderating lever on their reproduction where they just start reproducing less as they start reaching a threshold?
You know, that could be that once they start getting hungry, the queen stops reproducing.
Yeah, I know that happens in a lot of birds.
Because they're so long-lived, you know, like a bee lives 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be quickly adjusted.
Right.
When we're talking about creatures with a lifespan at least as long as humans, I would think that hunger would trigger a migrating response
Mm-hmm.
in them. And how they decide who migrates and who stays, I couldn't tell you. I would think the younger ones would feel like they would feel like, I think I'll walk this way. I'm enjoying walking this way. Oh, and hey, here's my friend. We are walking this way.
Mm-hmm. Seems like they could probably have a whole dice game based around who who does what. They do like their dice and their
Yeah.
RNG, random number generator, which I wonder if that might be kind of a funny thing to apply to their architecture in a way as well. I'm thinking of randomly changing what a building is. You had it where colored ribbons would denote what a building was for, and maybe every once in a while they'll just change the color ribbons on a place, and now the blacksmith is the restaurant and the restaurant is the blacksmith.
Yeah, I actually had that happen.
Oh, you did?
When they feel like doing joke flags, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right. Wow, I came up with a great idea that you came up with and I read and forgot that I read.
You forgot you read it.
Yep.
Subconsciously you remember.
Yeah. Amazing how that can happen. Anyway, yeah, so
So you're trying to figure out random shapes carved out inside a block.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how
and-
interesting that could be. Either just on the surface of a block that you're walking by. This is a wall, or imagine this as an actual the inside of the ground, and how this is how they're digging their tunnels out in these interesting forms, and what would drive that. One of the things that drive fractal patterns is it's a very simple set of rules, like do this, go at this angle a certain proportional distance, and then change your heading X%, and then reduce that proportion, and then you end up with spirals and stars and all this kind of interesting things. So they could have an interesting kind of set of inbuilt procedural rules to how they build that would make their warrens different looking.
Yeah, I think we first started calling them labyrinthines.
Yeah.
And I had their labyrinths, or their underground tunnels, every 15 steps, or it could have been any particular distance, but every so often they turned.
Mm-hmm. Just because. Yeah.
Which ends up making their tunnels much safer, because they can know where they're going, but whatever's invading, say the Dridian, would not be able to figure out the route.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think this has probably given
Oh,
me...
I remember now that bee story about the baseball guy. It was actually one of the announcers who said, "I can't stand to watch this anymore," and he put down his headphones and went out and collected the bees.
Oh. he knew enough about it to deal with it, huh?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, so I think this was a good example of getting a couple brains together and talking through how we want to approach things. I think the actual, this is obviously nothing good, but the idea, the impetus behind it, and establishing what we want to accomplish aesthetically and thematically will get me there much faster now that we've had this talk. So I don't have to bang my own head against the wall and just try to come up with stuff.
In the end, too, the mysterious females are going to have an impact on how this community knits together.
Yeah, that's a good cultural note to consider. If you have these prized, secreted away females, that could either be, they're just baby making machines, or they could be the vaunted, the queen. Yeah, I mean, in bees, when you think about the queen, it's called a queen, but really it's a baby making slave. I mean, it can't go anywhere, it can't move, it doesn't make any meaningful choices in its life. It's probably the worst job. So yeah, it could be interesting to develop that further. We'll probably need a Rumshae story about that, because it'd be hard to get. Well, I mean, maybe there's a way. One of the things that we're running into as we're making more novels with these exotic other species is, how do you make a plot that has a good pace and with all of these alien elements that need to be explained.
That have different motivations from humans. You have to find a way to make it understandable in
human terms. Yeah.
and that we don't feel this allegiance toward a queen, but we do feel like we should be allegiant to whoever's going to protect us and be our authority.
Yeah, we've got to find ways to draw parallels. I mean, so far what we've been doing is finding ways to pair to insert a human into the culture of these creatures,
and to watch what's going on.
And I don't know if it's where that lands on stylization. If we ended up with 10 novels that were all human, ends up in alien environment, and facilitates the reader's understanding of that environment, does that become contrived at a point, or is that just it's what's necessary, so that's how it is?
It's what I love.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's not bad. But yeah, those are the kind of things I think about, is meta pacing, and franchise management is fascinating to me, because it's an emerging field.
Mm-hmm.
The way it's being done now is horrible.
Well, it's in the Star Wars universe. It started out really well with Kathy Tyler. She wrote immediately after the movie number, I'm sorry, 3, 4, 6. After the 6th movie,
Yeah.
A few seconds later starts her next novel, and she and the other writers in that universe would actually get together every so often and sort of plot out, so they wouldn't be interfering with each other, where it was going and whose stories would overlap, and when they overlapped, who took this viewpoint, who took that viewpoint, which, that the Cantina at Mos Eisley anthology, she has a story in there about the musicians. And I loved it because it was like a diamond, so many multiple facets, but it was one thing.
Yeah.
And so they started out doing really cool on that.
Which is
it's
how
not
you...
their fault
Yeah.
that then management came along and decided, oh, let's just throw that all away.
Right. So that's how you break a television plot. Usually per season, they'll get all the writers together. They'll get the broad strokes of it, and then they break off into their individual teams, and they which is great. What's interesting to me about franchise management right now is not so much the plot flow as the cultural dealings with the expectations of the culture, the problem with nostalgia. How do you deal with that when you have multi-generational franchise, where you have the 30 and 40-year-olds who are expecting your next thing to give them the same feelings that they had the first time they encountered this this thing, which is literally impossible because
all you can say is, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Just brand management. All these things are really interesting, but that just brings me back to this idea of like how important it is to me to come out of the gate very clearly communicating that stories in Talifar can be lots of different things. They are not.
They don't all have to be the hero's quest.
Yeah.
They don't all have to be a novel of manners. They don't all have to be coming of age. They don't all have to be, you think of the 25, 35 different kinds of novels, and you're saying you can have a multiplicity of ways to approach stories that are in that setting. I'm not sure that you shouldn't have, at least most of them, sort of following templates, because people, when they pick up something, you're right, they want to at least come close. They want to know what they're experiencing. They want to know ahead of time, am I going to like that movie? That's why they want read previews, right? Reviews.
Yeah, there's a tricky balance there, because so Marvel's been navigating this closest to the best way that I know how, which is they started out with their formula. If when you went to a Marvel movie 7 or 8 years ago, you knew exactly what was going to happen. The good guy was going to get their power. They were going to fumble with their power. The bad guy was going to get their power, but even better. But then because the good guy has so much gumption and cleverness, he beats the bad guy at the end at their own game. And it was that formula over and over and over. And then halfway, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, they said, this can't be sustainable. We can't have this exact formula every time. So they started infusing different genre elements into it, like the mystery or the heist, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, I think, coming out initially with enough variation. Yes, there needs to be a family resemblance, I think is what it gets at.
That might be what I'm saying, yeah.
But it is a spectrum. The more
You'll be happy to know I wrote 2 mystery short stories.
Yes, that's awesome. In Talifar?
Yeah, with Monty.
Oh, yes.
The mountain folk.
Okay, yeah. Right, so if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, you can build a very tight, loyal fan base, and they always know what to expect, and they're always pleasantly satisfied with what they get. Rarely surprised, but usually satisfied. You go too far on the other end, you get, I kind of like that, but I don't like this, and so you don't get as many diehard fans. So maybe there's a sweet spot in the middle. I feel like Marvel is probably closest to that. They're still pretty formulaic, but maybe because they're so constrained to being about superheroes, that might be a thing. I wanted Tales from Talifar to not be about a hero doing a quest. I want it to be, come explore this amazing world and be surprised and delighted.
What you're trying to accomplish is the sense of wonder.
Sure. Yeah. Certain. So this is what I get from Star Wars movies. Even when Star Wars movies are bad, I feel like a satisfied tourist. I went to this exotic place and saw these amazing things that I haven't seen before, or combinations of things I haven't seen before, and so I'm satisfied by that. But I know there's a lot of people who go to Star Wars because they want to find out about what happened to the Skywalkers. And this is a story about this particular family with these particular superpowers. And anything that's not about that is a waste of my time. And so I don't understand that at all. But I need to understand. Well, I need to at least apprehend it and know that that is happening in the franchise management philosophy that I, when this becomes a franchise, which any minute now. Alita says to publish the book, so we should probably go ahead and do that. So I'll just hit the publish button right here. Okay, no. We'll get it. So I said April 1st because hopefully I signed up for a booth at Norwestcon to sell our books and promote the crap out of them. So I'll have statues, and we'll have books and posters, and it'll epic like ruins background. It's going to be the most ridiculous, out of proportion, artistic booth in that room.
Oh, but I love that. I mean, I saw. I think it was the last time I was there. There was some guy. He had some books, but he also had all these posters. Yeah. I got one of the posters and gave it to you because I just thought that was such a cool way to promote a book. Yeah,
and we're gonna have sculptures as well, and bookmarks and whatever we can make. So anyway, yeah, that is on. Norwestcon is on my birthday / Easter this year, and so I want to have the books published by April 1st so that everything is like established and we can take credit cards and hand people books.
We have to talk to Thomas Godolphy about how to sell an ebook at your own table. There's a way to do it.
Yeah.
I think he sells Q codes and gives the password, and somehow the people are able to access it there.
Right.
And so they don't have to wait. You know, you want to be able to sell to a person while they're interested, and not hope that they stay interested as they travel home and find out the dog threw up on the carpet and they got to clean it up
and they forget.
Hi,
Demo Rose. Welcome. We were just about to shut it down, so welcome to the end of the show. but watch us tomorrow when this will be uploaded on YouTube.
Will the book be print only? No, the book will be ebook, and print and
Eventually, audiobook.
audiobook, and I'm hoping that we will eventually even get some hardcovers.
Yes, there will at least be a super duper collector's edition that there may only be 10 of them in existence, where I'm going to mold and cast a beautiful, faux leather and bronze book cover that all 3 of the books will be in, and it will be gorgeous and signed and customized. It'll be great. It'll be great. Trust me.
Yeah, 30 years from now.
Sure. Yes, you will be able to read it in France. Absolutely.
I don't know when we're going to have it translated into French. But,
I have a feeling that Demaruse can read English pretty well. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to get it translated.
Aletha says if our book isn't out, you can go sell hers at the table.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah. Okay, well let's wrap it up for today, and I'll see you guys again on Wednesday. Maybe I'll have made some progress on this. Probably not. Probably not. I've got so many things I'm progressing on. I'm almost done with Beaumark's bust, and I'll be casting and molding and casting and painting and photographing and making the final cover for the book. Scola is 99% done with the sculpt.
And then comes Lilk for the third one.
For the third book. So yeah, we're hitting the pace. Yeah, I've got a breakdown of all the things that need to happen to get up to our April 1st date, and so yeah, I'm gonna keep that document updated, and I'll keep you guys updated as we progress on that. And yeah, so thanks for stopping by, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay, bye.